Welcome back. Here's our first video going through Chapter 1 of Anatomy and Physiology. I would suggest getting a pencil and some paper and take some notes as we go along here. This again will be the exact same set of notes that you will see in class, or you already have seen in class. Alright. So the first chapter is just going to get us introduced to the body, a general overview. Kind of skipped ahead there. So, what's this got to do with it? Actually, in doing research for inspiration for these videos and in teaching this class, I came across a Bozeman science video, which you've probably watched before if you've taken any pre-AP stuff with Miss Tucker. He's great. If you look up Bozeman science, you can find a video on just about anything, and he's very knowledgeable and presents it very well. And in one of his Anatomy and Physiology videos, he gives you this, or a picture very similar to this. So I want to begin with this question: what is anatomy and physiology? Well, if we were going to describe the anatomy of this tool here, you can see it's got several parts. It's got this moving head. We obviously know what that's for. That's the real working part of the wrench. You grip a bolt, a nut, and grab onto it tight. You can move it. Maybe you're just keeping it still so you're moving it with something else. Whatever the case, we get an idea for what it's for by looking at its structure. This here, you've got like this little wheel, and we know that it moves. Makes this end bigger, makes this bigger or smaller and sizes it to exactly what we need. And again, it looks the way it does because of the job that it has to do. We have this long handle. It gives us a good mechanical advantage for if we are going to turn something. Because we know if you just use your fingers without using this long arm, it makes it more difficult to do. And then you have this here maybe for you to hook on, hanging on a wall or something. So each individual part of this wrench is like each different part of your body. It looks the way it does. It looks different from a hammer. It looks different from a screwdriver because it has a different job to do. So we see a relationship between structure and the way something looks and function and the way that it works or the job that it has to do. So anatomy, again, is the study of the structure, the shape, the way it looks of the body and its parts. Physiology is a study of the body and how those parts work, what their job is, how they work together. We have different levels of study of the body. We can study anatomy on a gross level. That's actually the word for it. Kind of ironic. But gross anatomy is large structures. This is something we're going to see with the naked eye. We're looking at the entire body. We're looking at a whole body system. We're talking about someone's, specific left forearm, right? This is a large scale, easily observable level of study. Microscopic anatomy, as it sounds, is very small structures. These are cells and tissues. Histology is one of your terms. Hopefully you have gone and already been in class and gotten your terms list. You'll see histology there. Histology is the study of tissues. So microscopic anatomy, again, is something small, something you can only see with a microscope. This image I put here for a reason. You've probably seen this piece before by Leonardo da Vinci. It is entitled The Vitruvian Man. Before I talk about it, a little bit about da Vinci. You've probably seen things on TV or movies or whatever about da Vinci. He wasn't just an artist. He was a scientist. He was an inventor. He was just curious about all things about life. He was a very brilliant man. And one of the things he did was actually study the body. He actually studied cadavers or dead people. And so this is a result of some of his studies, this image we have here. So let's take a look at it. We see a square and a circle. We see a man in different positions. And if you look close, you can see these little boxes he has drawn. And one of the things he's trying to demonstrate with this image is symmetry. He actually did a whole lot of studies involving this photo and even doing math and a very detailed study that we don't have to get into, but the symmetry of the body and even, repositioning the body and drawing these squares, these geometric shapes, and studying the perfect symmetry of the body, which from the outside we see. And it leads to this. How can we organize the body using these directional planes? I have a little sketch drawn here. It's not perfect, but we can get an idea from it. So one of the ways of studying gross anatomy is studying the symmetry, or using the symmetry to be able to communicate locations within the body or on the body, if we are communicating between different people and looking at one subject we'll call a patient. So one thing we have here is called the mid-sagittal plane, one of your vocabulary terms. This is a plane that divides the body into left and right halves, and you describe something in relation to the mid-sagittal plane as being medial, or toward the middle of the body, or toward or closer to the mid-sagittal plane. That's medial. Remember, medial with middle. Or it's lateral, further away from the middle, more toward the outside, further away. Another plane we have is this transverse plane. The transverse plane divides the body into upper and lower halves, and you describe something in relation to the transverse plane as being superior to it, or above it, or inferior to it, or below it. Another plane, we have to view the body from the side. Here's another cute little sketch, someone walking. So we divide the body into front and rear halves with this frontal plane. On the what we would call front side, the side with your face would be ventral to the frontal plane, or anterior, and to the rear or behind the back half of the body would be dorsal or posterior to the frontal plane. Dorsal and ventral are terms that really describe four-legged animals, but can be used to describe humans as well. You can remember this by a fish's dorsal fin, right, which is on their back. So that may help you remember that. The next topic is levels of structural organization. I talked about already gross anatomy versus microscopic anatomy, and we're studying the body on different levels kind of as we zoom in. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go backwards of what this image shows. I'm not going to start at 1, I'm going to start at 6. So on the largest level we have the whole organism. So this is an organismal level of study. All of the organ systems and parts of the body working together. The next level down, smaller from that, is studying the body on an organ system level. This will be one particular organ system. They give the cardiovascular system, which is the heart and all of the circulatory vessels together. So that would be one example. Another might be digestive. The next level down from that is the organ level. So within one organ system, you have one organ. If we are using this cardiovascular system they gave us as an example, one organ might be the heart. One level down from the organ level would be the tissue level. Tissues, again, this is a term you have, are different cell types that all function together to do one job. They may be of the same type of cell or completely different, but they function together. And so these are tissues, multiple cells. Down from the tissue level is the cellular level. This is one individual cell doing its job. And finally we have the molecular or the chemical level. So this deals with actual chemistry within the body. Alright, so as we look at the organ system level, we already kind of looked at the gross level or the organismal level by looking at those directional planes, which we will revisit again later. As we look through the organ system, which I will go through, we'll see, depends on how much time I have in the video. We'll go through a couple here. We'll break it down, and this is how your textbook is organized and how the chapters in this book are all organized, and that is organ system by organ system. One of the first ones we'll do is the integumentary system, a big long word mostly meaning the skin. This forms the external body covering or the skin itself, called the cutaneous membrane. We will see that term again. And it also refers to any of the coverings around your body cavities. If you've dissected an animal or butchered an animal, like if you're a deer hunter, and you open up that abdominal cavity, you know there's some fleshy skin type stuff you have to go through to actually get to the guts. And that would be a type of integumentary covering, a protective covering that wraps the entire, that whole body cavity where all those organs are. That's part of the integumentary system. Part of the job of the integumentary system, this is a very short list, but some things that you are expected to know for this chapter, because we need to know the different organ systems and their basic jobs before we move forward. One of those jobs of the integumentary system is to synthesize, or in other words, make vitamin D. We know we need exposure to ultraviolet light to be able to do that. And this is also an important location for cutaneous nerve receptors, meaning your touch receptors, your temperature receptors. It helps in protecting the body, that you can sense the world around you. We'll go through one more system here before I switch, and you'll need to go to part 2 video for this chapter. Here we have the skeletal system. We pretty much know about this one. This is the bones of the body. Their main job are to protect and support the body organs. Support makes a lot of sense. You'd just be a blob without them. Protection, we see here the ribs. That's their main function, is to protect your heart and your lungs. And your skull is a very thick bony protection for your brain. Probably the most sensitive organ in the body, needing the most protection. It also, another thing we don't think about maybe, provides muscle attachment for movement. Your muscles are called skeletal muscles for a reason. They attach to your bones, which is what allows your entire, leg or your entire arm to move, because it's the inner workings of the muscles with that skeleton that is attached to. In many bones throughout the body is also the site of blood cell formation. For example, in the pelvis. Your pelvis is partially protective, protects your organs down here, but it also is one of the bones in the body where you have bone marrow to create more blood cells. And another function of the skeletal system is to store minerals that your body needs. And you're probably familiar with the main one already, calcium. Another function that maybe we don't think about with the skeletal system, but it's definitely a living system. It's not just this hard calcified stuff that we're familiar with that we see only after an animal passes away. It's definitely got many more functions than that. It has its own blood running through it and everything. So maybe some things that you don't think about there. Alright, the next system we'll come to is the muscular system, which is what I will start the next video with. So go to part 2 for chapter 1 now.